Hey guys, Enigmatic Mr. L, and I want to talk about assist trophies for Super Smash Bros. I know oftentimes when it comes to speculating about future Smash Bros. Games, the biggest focus is on the playable roster, whether it's bigger or smaller reboot, what newcomers could get added, who would make the cut, gets scrapped, etc. But for once, I just want to talk about assist trophies. I think they're a fun idea, and while I get that it can be disappointing if there's a character you want to be playable, there's an assist trophy instead. I don't think that's a slight against the character, like they're undeserving of playable or that sort of thing. It's just there's only so much development time, and I'd rather a character like be like an assist character, like have that sort of role than like nothing at all. And I think there's some untapped potential for some good assist trophy ideas. So these characters that I have, some of them I do think could work as fighters. It's just a combination of factors like moveset would be a bit of a stretch. Uh, Not too big of a deal of its own. Like Sakurai and team have made characters from non-combat games work before, like Pac-Man or Villager or Mies, but it would still be a bit of a stretch, or they're just kind of maybe a little too niche to be a playable fighter. Again, we've seen niche characters before, but maybe not like too many in one game. And just more important, I think you got like better options all around. So, with that out of the way, let's just get on the list, no particular order. Starting with Cranky Kong. Now, I have seen Cranky Kong requested as a fighter here and there, but generally, by and large, he's been overshadowed by Dixie Kong. And I really don't think they'd have, if they kept all the Donkey Kong characters currently at Dixie Kong, I don't think they'd add Cranky Kong 2 and have 5. I could be wrong. It's just, there's something to work with a moveset here. Like, he has the cane, he uses like as a pogo stick. But I think he'd be really fun assist trophy. Now, the first thing that comes to mind is naturally using that cane pogo stick thing like Shovel Knight or Scrooge McDuck. And yeah, that could work, but I also think it'd be funner if he just kind of acted like Mr. Reset Eye from Brawl and just goes on rambling, like breaking the fourth wall. Maybe if they're like, you have characters like Sonic or Pac Man out there, he says a comment like, back in my day, we didn't have third party characters in Smash Brothers, or even something like Super Smash Bros. Melee is the only true Smash Brothers. All right, that might be a little too memey. I don't think Nintendo would do that, but still, just have him rambling in the background, breaking the fourth wall. I think that would be really funny. Or you could even like combine the ideas where he does actively attack opponents, like when he's summoned and he fights for you with the post stick, but he makes like comments that break the fourth wall too. Next, I have Balloon Fighter. Balloon Fighter was considered as a retro character in Melee, but ultimately lost to Ice Climbers. And I can see why Ice Climbers have a more potential move set, something more unique, like two fighters in one. They got the mallets, they have ice properties. Balloon Fighter, I'm sure it's possible to make a move set for him. It's just a bit of a stretch. But an assist trophy, you don't need to make nearly as much the detailed move set. And I do think Balloon Fighter himself is fairly iconic for a retro character. My idea is he just kind of floats around, and if you get knocked off stage, he helps you get back on stage. Maybe he grabs hold of you or something, you get back on. Or maybe he just floats around as kind of a neutral, like third party, like, and just balloons act as platforms, but when they break, he disappears. Doesn't actively fight, but I think could be interesting. Another retro character I have is Mock Rider. This character gained a lot of notoriety during the infamous Grinch leak of 2018, and since that was proven false, it's been kind of they've been largely forgotten about. But an obscure NES game, but having more like limelight thanks in parts to the Grinch leak. Uh, I Moveset would be a bit of a stretch for a full-on character. Like you could use the gun for a neutral special, maybe like slide forward on their bike, like side special, but then what do you do for the rest? But for an assist trophy, that's all you need. Just going around with the bike back and forth, maybe using that gun, attack opponents, and disappear. I also think Mock Rider is interesting because even before I think Samus, their gender is kind of ambiguous. There's some evidence to suggest Mock Rider is actually female, but it's fairly ambiguous. And I think it'd be interesting if like they brought back Mock Rider, but then she used like they then pronouns for it and still continue to leave it ambiguous. Could be fun. Next, I have Captain Rainbow. And assist trophies are often like they do bring like some iconic characters from like secondary from like major franchises, but it also be very obscure characters. And what better way to like have an obscure character than like from the game that's all about like obscure Nintendo characters? I think Captain Rainbow could just like run around at high speeds, just uses yo-yo as an attack, kind of like Ness, but kind of more like instead of like a projectile almost. And just when his time limit is up, he transforms back to the regular human Nick, then disappears. Kind of like Captain Rainbow himself is on a time limit in his games. He can only maintain the form for a little bit of time. For added fun, I think it'd be funny if he has any contact with water, he just immediately goes back to normal, because I think that's how it works in the games. Kind of like how Metroids and Smash Bros. Use an ice attack and instantly destroys them as a nod to their games. Fun character I'd like to see. Now I have Elma from Xenoblade Chronicles X. Xenoblade Chronicles has been, getting fairly popular in the last few years. First it was just Shulk, and then Pyra made it in his DLC. Now much talk of whether Noah or Mia from Xenoblade Chronicles 2 or 3 would make it in, or maybe both as a tag team. And while there's not a hard rule about a limit to, characters, I don't think they would add someone from Xenoblade 3 and add Elma, especially now their time is kind of, gone on a little. It's kind of past the time for that. But it could happen. I think she'd be as better fit as the Sis Trophy. So you could have the characters from Xenoblade 1, 2, and 3 as playable characters. Maybe cut Pyra and Mythra, but that's neither here nor there. But still represent Xenoblade Chronicles X with a Sis Trophy. They could replace Riki, or they could, do both. Nothing says a series can't have, 2 Sis Trophies. And there's definitely enough for Moveset, both as a fighter, but especially as a Sis Trophy. She has the swords, she has the guns. Would be at least something for Xenoblade Chronicles X. It's one of the very few Nintendo games not to get ported to the Switch. So yeah, I think this is a good idea. Next I have QB from Box Boy. Personally, I would love to see QB as a full-on fighter, just using his boxes, both as kind of smash attacks, kind of like Pac-Man with his ghosts, or maybe throw them as projectiles, and then use the rocket box, maybe as a recovery, the teleporting box, maybe as down special, and then explosive box, as in a side special, neutral special, but he's probably way too niche to have any realistic chance of making his playable character. But as an assist trophy, I think that'd be fun. Kind of like Dylan, that armadillo, representing the eShop. Yeah, he could just attack directly and probably just throwing boxes at opponents. Or he could just kind of be like Steve. He sets up boxes that act as walls, or maybe extend the platform sides, make easier or difficult recovery. And it's just neutral. The boxes affect both who summon him and who they're fighting against. So he's just kind of a neutral character, just kind of mixes up the game a lot. I think that would be pretty fun. And Nintendo Labo, if they were ever going to get in as a character, I think it would have been a Smash Ultimate DLC. They came in way too late to be considered for the base roster. If they wanted to go with more bringing in Nintendo franchises, I could have seen them doing this, but as they didn't, I think their time in the limelight is kind of past. It's really not talked about or discussed as much these days, but as an assist trophy, I think it definitely would work. We've seen Rob as a playable character. He's just a hardware peripheral. Nintendo Labo, if it weren't for Smash Bros., at least might be more popular than Rob. Lots of potential you could do for just a moveset for an assist trophy. Could, of course, use the big robot mech. Could also use a car, the fishing roll, even the fishing pole, or even the piano. Would be fun to see. Professor Oak here might be confusing some people. Isn't the entirety of assist trophies is just Pokeballs, but for other series, why? Pokemon already has Pokeballs. Why do they need assist trophies? But I think some of the human characters in Pokemon, while not as iconic as the monsters, they're iconic enough. Especially someone like Professor Oak. And my idea for what he could do, you summon him, and then all playable characters, he gives them a Pokeball. And if your opponent already has a different item, like a hammer or something, it just deletes it. So it still helps you. One way you can do it, just the Pokemon he gives are completely random, just add chaos. Or it could be the person who summons him gets a Master Ball, so they're guaranteed to have a legendary Pokemon their side. So even though your opponent does get something, it's still more beneficial to be the person who summoned Oak than if your opponent gets him. I think would be pretty fun to see. Chorus Kids, I know some people want these as a playable fighter, and I wouldn't be opposed to that. I think Rhythm Heaven, it's right on the edge where it's not nearly as niche as some other franchises, but not nearly as mainstream as miniseries in Smash. It could go either way. Personally, I think if they were going to do a Rhythm Heaven character, I think Karate Joe would be a better fit, especially if Ryu didn't make it in. Just yeah, it's more standard punches and kicks, maybe some rhythm based things, maybe some nods to other games. But chorus kids, I think, would be a fun assist trophy. They just sing and it creates like a sound bubble around them, one at a time. That all three of them join together for like a bigger one, kind of like Barbara the Bat from Brawl. I think Rhythm Heaven is definitely popular to deserve at least an assist trophy. It had a lot of spirits and Ultimate, and Smash 4 was one of the very few franchises to have an enemy, and was like Smash Run or something like that. The 3DS exclusive mode that didn't have a playable character, and there's even some data mine suggest a Rhythm Heaven character was in development at some time. Maybe it was cut due to hardware limitations, especially like on the 3DS. Smash Run, yeah, I think that's the name of it. But at the very least, seeing them as an assist trophy would be pretty fun. And last, possibly least, I have Glass Joe from Punch Out. Now that Little Mac transitioned from being an assist trophy to a playable character, and there was between Brawl and Smash 4, there was that 2009 Wii outing. I think Punch Out is big enough. In addition to having a playable character, it wouldn't be too much of a stretch to have an assist trophy role. I think Glass Joe would be pretty funny. He would just be pathetically weak. Like, yeah, he does attack, but his attacks are slow. They don't do much damage, and he dies like very easily. Maybe like dies one hit or something. Kind of like the assist trophy equivalent of Goldeen, but if, apparently he does have like one win to his name somehow. So I think it'd be really funny if just like 1 to like 5% of the time he delivers like a devastating like forward punch or uppercut that's just like a one hit KO. So like most of the time you get him, it's just a joke, his ability, but every now and then, extremely rarely, he just instantly knocks out the opponent. I think that'd be really funny to see. And that's my list. If you have any other ideas you think would be fun for Assist Trophy to see, please let me know in the comments below. As always, thank you so much for watching. And this is Enigmatic Mr. L signing out.